Hey friend, Jim Heskett, the Juggling author here, just to make a quick video for you about how to become a better writer through practice. Now, it would seem obvious that that's the way you get to be a better writer is by practicing it, but I want to talk specifically about a couple things. I talk about this in my book, The Juggling Author, but I mentioned that the first book I ever wrote, it took me 2 years to write it, and I wrote maybe 12 to 13, 14, 15 drafts. I wrote a lot of drafts of that book. And I kept going back over and over again to rehash things and thinking that I could eventually make it perfect. Of course, I couldn't make it perfect. It doesn't work that way. The second book I ever wrote took me about a year, and then the third book I ever wrote took me about 6 months. The third book I wrote was the first book I published, because by then I felt strong enough as a writer to be able to publish it. But what am I talking about when I mean practice? First of all, it's impossible to edit a draft into infinity. Your draft will never approach 1. It will never get to 1. You're always approaching 1. And by that I mean 100%. It'll never be perfect. The only way to get better as a writer is to practice your skill set. And you can't do that by editing the same manuscript over and over again. You need to edit to a point, then put that manuscript aside and start a new thing. That is how you get better. And what are the things I'm talking about that you can do to get better? When you write, and talking about craft, writing in some ways is a little bit like algebra. Now, hold on, I'm going to explain this. In algebra, there's nothing that's hard in algebra. It's really just a matter of knowing what the rules are and when to apply them. You know, if X is here, you do this with it, and that kind of stuff. That's basically how algebra works. It's just a long series of rules, and if you know all the rules and know when to apply them, then you'll be great at it. And writing in some ways is kind of like that. There are all these rules to writing craft. Rules like you need to vary your sentence structure. You need to have a long sentence, then a short sentence, and then a long sentence most of the time. Other things like you don't want to start multiple sentences in a row with the same word. If you start 2 sentences with he and you start a third sentence with he, the writer will detect it. There's all kinds of little rules like that in writing. You know, things like when you're using a dialogue tag and you say blah blah blah, he said, blah 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 blah, you want to keep that he said. If the dialogue tag breaks up dialogue, you want to put it as close to the front of the sentence as possible. You wouldn't want to say, I think we should go over there. Or maybe we should go look over there, and then if there's time, we might go all the way over there, he said, but I don't think we should go over here. You need to move that he said closer to the front of the dialogue. I'm not going to list hundreds of rules here, but my point is that when you're a new writer and you're just learning this, all these rules can feel extremely overwhelming because there's so many of them. But after you've been writing for a while, the idea of varying your sentence structure will start to feel natural and will just start to be a way that you write naturally. Some of that you'll catch in editing. You know, my habit is to put lots of long sentences together. And then so in editing, I'll go back and say, okay, I've got 3 long sentences here. I need to insert a short sentence right here to break it up. So this art of practice is when these things become second nature, and that's how you can go from being able to write 12 drafts to writing 3 drafts, because all these rules will work in your head and you'll get better and better at it, and eventually you're never going to have a perfect first draft, but you can have a pretty clean first draft, a clean enough first draft that you're not going to need to write 6 more drafts to get it right. Thanks guys, have a good day.